So, hello everyone. My name is Lee Nichols, and I'm the editor-in-chief and associate publisher of Hydrocarbon Processing magazine. And I'd like to welcome all of you to the latest installment of Hydrocarbon Processing's Refined View. Today, we are speaking with Colin Baillie, who is the manager of Environmental Additives for W.R. Grace. Today, we're going to be discussing with him the major points of his upcoming article, which is Deliver High Levels of SOx Reduction with SOx Reduction Additive. This article will be featured within the September issue of Hydrocarbon Processing magazine, so definitely be on the lookout for that. So with that, I would like to welcome in our special guest, Colin. Colin, how are you doing today?
Doing good, thanks, Lee. Good to speak with you.
Excellent. Now, before we dive into this discussion, can you let the viewers know a little bit more about your role at Grace?
Sure, yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm the manager of our Environmental Additives segment within the FCC products. So this includes products including SOx reduction additives that I will discuss, also technologies for NOx reduction, combustion promoters, and gasoline sulfur reduction technologies. I'm originally from the UK, where I received my PhD in chemistry, also an MBA. But I've been with Grace now for 15 years, and I'm based in Germany.
Excellent, perfect. Hey, now, before we dive into the world of FCC additives for SOx reduction, can you briefly describe, I guess, the various options that refiners have as a part of their approach for SOx emission compliance?
Sure. So really, for refiners that are operating against the SOx emission target, I would say there are generally three different options that they can use for SOx compliance. One of those is a well-established route of using wet gas scrubbers that removes SO2 and some other pollutants. Second option is the use of FCC SOx reduction additives. And the third option is a combination of both, really, wet gas scrubbing and SOx reduction additives. But really, the extent to which either wet gas scrubbing or SOx reduction additives are applied depends somewhat on how stringent the SOx emission targets are at a refinery, which can actually vary quite a bit from country to country. But it also depends on how sweet or sour the refinery feed slates are. And you also have to take into account FCC feed pretreatment capability, because refiners that do have hydrodesulfurization capacity often don't need to use any technology for SOx control, neither wet gas scrubbing or SOx additives. Then if you think about refiners that aren't currently operating against a SOx emission target, but may need to in the future, usually there's limited options available in terms of changing the feed slate. And then there's the large capex associated with wet gas scrubbing and feed pre-treating. So I think SOx additives actually represent a very cost-effective option in the future. They're commercially proven across a wide range of conditions, and they can be added quickly to an FCC unit for full flexibility.
Okay, so with that in mind, I'm kind of curious, so how extensively are FCC SOx reduction additives being used by refineries? I guess it's just as a part of their approach for emissions compliance.
So in general, I mean, SOx additives have been established for a relatively long time, especially in the mature markets. The SOx additive market initially developed in North America, where now I would estimate more than 30% of refiners in North America are using SOx additives. Actually, that value does vary fairly significantly depending on the pad region. For example, the West Coast and the Rocky Mountain regions typically use SOx additive to a greater extent than the East Coast and the Gulf Coast. Then in Europe, the number of refineries using SOx additives, I would say it's historically been lower, but over the last couple of years, it has increased due to BREF legislation that came into impact in 2018. I would now estimate that more than 20% of refineries in Europe are now using SOx additive. And in the other regions, for example, Latin America, Middle East, Africa, Asia Pacific, the number of SOx additive applications is lower, but SOx legislation is becoming more stringent in some of these countries. And we are starting to work more closely with some refiners to help them determine what options they have for their overall SOx compliance strategy.
Yeah, I would imagine so, especially with a lot of their stricter specifications coming out. So now this is a good segue because I want to start talking about the article that's coming out in September, which is really good article featured in our special focus section. Now, in the article, you describe the commercialization of Grace's emission SOx additive. So for the viewers, can you explain more upon what is new about this technology and how this new technology advance is providing value to refineries?
Sure, yeah. I think the first thing to mention is that so Emission is based on our renowned Super DSOX technology platform. This is distinguished in the fact that it contains a unique magnesium aluminate spinel crystal phase. So spinel-based SOx additives are commercially and academically proven to be more effective for additive regeneration compared to non-spinel additives, which ultimately delivers improved SOx reduction performance. But where Emission differs from our previous additives is that we've introduced additional processing steps into our manufacturing process, which has had two main impacts on the physical properties of our additive. It's discussed in the September article that you mentioned, but the first benefit is an improved vanadium dispersion across the additive particle. So vanadium is a key functionality used in all SOx additives. And another thing that the process modification resulted in is a higher conversion of the magnesium within the additive into this spinel crystal phase. Now both of these features have a benefit in terms of improving additive regeneration within the SOx reduction catalytic cycle. And this is often the rate determining step for partial burn units. In addition to that, there's also an improvement in the cerium dispersion across the additive particle. So cerium is also an important element within SOx additives, within all SOx additives. It basically facilitates the oxidation of SO2 to SO3 in the regenerator. This is also a key step within the overall SOx reduction catalytic cycle. And it's also a step that can be rate limiting in partial burn units or units that are operating at lower oxygen levels. Therefore, the combination of all of these benefits, the vanadium dispersion, cerium dispersion, and the optimized spinel content, really results in an additive that can provide improved performance in both full and partial burn applications. And I think this allows refineries to be more confident in their SOx additive performance, regardless of any changes that may occur in the unit. And if I think about partial burn units, quite often the feed quality is highly variable. This can result in higher levels of feed sulfur, which leads to the higher SOx emissions. And I think having the capability and the flexibility to be able to process such feeds is a crucial part of a refiner's strategy, especially those in partial burn. So being effective, having an effective additive for such circumstances is, important now for refinery profitability. Now, if I think back at one of the applications of Emission, one of these was a unit that switched between full and partial burn mode. And we demonstrated through Emission improved performance in both of those operations, which means that the refinery can really control SOx emissions more effectively without having to switch from a full burn additive then to a more expensive partial burn additive, instead just using the one additive for both applications. And we've seen more than 15 refiners switch to emission, and generally speaking, we're seeing lower usage rates in the region of 20%, and this is delivering a significant OPEX reduction for many refineries out there.
Oh, great. Yeah, no, it's fantastic technology, which the viewers will see when they read the article in September. And so that kind of leads me to my next question is, do you, I guess, anticipate further technology improvements in the field of SOx additives?
Yes, I think so. I mean, we're certainly working towards that at Grace. The refining industry, it has to adapt to changes in the environmental legislation, as well as various shifting market dynamics. And I think in response to some of those dynamics, more and more refineries are looking to maximise their profitability by processing more challenging feedstocks, often higher in sulfur. Or maybe they're considering trying to reduce caustic consumption in the wet gas scrubber through the use of SOx additives. So I really do see that SOx emission control will remain a crucial topic for refiners and can give them a competitive edge. We recognise this in Grace. This was the reason why we invested in the new emission technology, and it's really part of our overall commitment to the FCC industry in general. And we continue to allocate more resources to develop future generations of SOx additives. So I am hopeful that we will launch some new technology within the next 1 or 2 years. So watch this space.
Excellent, excellent. Well, hey, you got to keep us up to date on that.
Yeah, I would do.
Well, I really, Colin, I can't thank you enough for your time. Like I mentioned before, this emission technology is pretty incredible stuff, and the article is great. So for people that are watching this and they want to find out more information about this technology, where do you suggest they go to find out more information?
First, I would say check out the article in the September issue. Right, that's I'd highly recommend your viewers to do that. It describes a successful application of emission at the BP refinery in Rotterdam. Alternatively, people can reach out to a Grace representative through our website, grace.com. And we're more than happy to assist, to really work with any refiner out there to consider their unique operation, recommend the overall best solution for their SOx emission compliance.
Well, excellent. Well, hey, Colin, really, we can't thank you enough for giving us a couple minutes of your day, because I know how busy you are. So definitely want to thank you for spending some time to speak about this important technology within the industry. And so with that, of course, we want to thank all of you for watching the latest installment of Hydrocarbon Processing's Refined View.